Pearls before swine. Reason before faith. Individuals before groups. Free will before determinism. Nations before globes. Nations before globes. Liberty before authority. Capitalism before socialism. Character before identity. Accolades before criticisms. Openness before isolation. Possibility before beliefs. Beginnings before endgame. Contrast before relief. So this is a named tweet, and this is one of the less straightforward ones where it's actually really helpful that I break these sort of cryptic or too broad tweets down for you in these videos. It's fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you. Thank you for watching. Pearls before swine. So this this is very biased. This channel is very biased. I'm very biased, but this tweet's very biased and opinionated, and I'll explain what it means. One by one. Reason before faith. So in all cases here, in all cases in this tweet, I'm not saying get rid of the second thing. You have reason before faith. I'm not saying get rid of faith. We need faith. We absolutely need faith. But I think we should put reason before faith, especially when we're making an important decision. We should make sure that we have the science down. We have those nuts and bolts that I talked about earlier. We have the actual logic figured out. Instead of just jumping to, well, I believe it'll work. I believe this machine will work. Yes, it's out of gas, but I believe, I didn't know, I just believe, I didn't reason it out, I didn't check, I didn't do my research and check the gas tank. I just believe it works. It's going to work. Don't need to check it. No reason. And all of a sudden you find out, you come to find, it's out of gas. There's nothing in the tank. If you hadn't put faith that there was before reason, checking, you would have been happier. You would have gotten what you wanted. A working lawnmower. So I think reason before faith. If you want to have faith, if you want to, get into a pattern of a little confirmation bias, sort of getting used to something and then sort of letting down your guard on reason, that's great, But I think we should at least be able to reason first and then get to this softer faith in something later. Individuals before groups. So this channel, of course, preaches, and because I kind of look like Jesus Christ, is a little fun there. But we preach the white Jesus, of course. We preach individuality and individual agency. We don't try to go into third-person effect. We don't talk about too much of, we say that, everyone is being brainwashed every minute of every day by themselves and others. But we talk individuals before groups. We talk about individual before group. Because a lot of this is really just counter-messaging, counter-programming for the modern religion of social justice. All the moral virtue and universal truth you can get, the equity, the equality, I try to stay away from it. I believe in social justice, lowercase social justice. When you add that capital S, capital J, and I say disciple, but some people add a W for social justice warrior. Some of these people, I'm agnostic. I'll put it that way. I'm agnostic on the modern religion of social justice. Some of these people put you into a label. It's fun. I'm doing it right now. It's fun. But it's a label they accept. Like, I accept that, for example, let's see. I accept that I'm a gamer. I'm in a group called Gamers. I love that label. That's great. You know? That's sort of, a hobby. It's a pastime. It can be an occupation even, right? And it's fine to say, look, I'm white. Jeff Tidwell is white. I'm 25% Syrian Lebanese. A lot of Polish, a lot of Irish in here. I'm white, right? You can say that. I'm male. I'm definitely male. So you can put me in that group. I'm eligible to go into the men's room in South Carolina. Great. You can do all that. I can say that I'm agnostic. I don't believe in God, necessarily. Sorry. Put me in a group. Go ahead. But when you start to put people into groups and then move them around, culturally engineer society using these group characteristics and just saying, you're not allowed to have as much success as you'd like. You're not allowed to succeed. You're not allowed to have opportunity, or you are, or either way, because of X, Y, and Z. You're not allowed to say this or do this because of your immutable characteristics. That's not the kind of country we live in. But I focus on individual. I think everybody has something to offer. Energy survives all outcomes, as I say in my tweet and video, Based 10. Check it out on the channel. But I think that we've gotten away from this a little bit. People are so concerned with symbolism and labeling things and telling you what to do, where to go, and how to be based on, the color of your skin, what your belief system is, what your ideology is. People are getting kicked off of social media for the wrong political opinions, and I don't like it. I don't like this idea of putting people on a list into this group, and then using that list to demonize and to say that list is bad. Those people are bad. Those people are good. And then going around society and just, forming society based on these postmodern preconceptions of what's going on. I don't find that very appealing. I'm sorry. I just don't. So I counter-program. Against that. And you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. So yes, I'm going to do, hypocrisy is a thing. But you have to be able to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And yeah, I'm going to have to break a couple eggs here. Pointing out those who would cast me or anybody as a group instead of a person. I remember, right after Donald Trump won, and I voted for Jill Stein. I voted for the Green Party candidate. Right after Donald Trump won, people were triggered. They were emotionally damaged. They were hurting. They didn't know what was going to happen. They were surprised. They were shocked. They were triggered. And people I had known for 10 years, somebody I knew for 30 years, but notably both of them and others, many people, came up to me and pointed to me and said, of course you're not triggered. Of course you're not scared. I was talking to white people, by the way. Of course you're not scared. You're a white male. You're privileged. You're privileged. And I'm like, haven't you known me for 10, 20, 30 years? They're so into this social justice, modern religion. They're disciples that want to proselytize and bring me in and make me hate, certain groups that need to be taken down a notch. Depending on the country you're in, it doesn't really export very well. A lot of countries it doesn't make sense to have social justice. Mostly just multicultural countries. I've talked a lot about that on this channel. You can check out my other videos on groupthink and group mentality and collectivism versus individualism. And again, I advocate for individualism, but it's not perfect either. I mean, individualism can be, in its own way, a form of religion in itself. Okay, when you look at the cult of personalities that form and things. So believe me, I understand that it's... No, I always think it's not perfect. It's between. So then we have free will before determinism. So determinism is closer to this thing I call rational free will, which means that some things are determined, like life just continues on as long as it can until it can't. There are some things in this world, gravity, the way the physical world works on a micro and a macro level, quantum physics. There are things that are determined, but then there's also this thing called free will. I believe in irrational free will, which actually does have some, if you think about it in a certain frame, quantum implications. This sort of like, well, you have a 0 or a 1 that can be either one or the other. Schrodinger's cat, until you check if it's a 0 or a 1, it could be a 0 or it could be a 1. And to me, that shows a little bit of uncertainty that I think gets away from the deterministic philosophy about how reality operates. So I say free will before determinism. I say, people are irrational beings. We're emotional beings that, of course, make choices that don't seem to, they're not always predictable. Sometimes they don't make any sense. Sometimes they're just stupid. People, some of us, are just stupid. And we make bad decisions. But, free will, again, people will ask all these questions. And free will is I'm not going to come down hard on free will because I think it's something that I'm still studying and a very interesting topic. I have a couple tweets out about it. One of the videos is called Free Willy. Check it out on BitChute and YouTube. But I say free will before determinism because I don't like people getting locked in. I don't like people getting locked in to this idea that they can't change reality, that they can't change their situation. I like to think that things aren't determined. You can change your fate and enjoy your life more. You can make your experience on this earth better. When people talk about determinism, it feels like, I think it kind of locks people into this idea that there's no such thing as real free will. I think the truth lies between those two. I think that, we can do things for all kinds of reasons. And people will say, well, you still, you don't really have free will. All of your programming. Sam Harris will tell you something in this ballpark, and I really like Sam a lot on this topic. Even though I don't fully agree with him, I think he's on the right path for rational free will, and we need to stick with the rational again. Reason before faith, earlier in the tweet. You might think that your actions are free will, but in reality, you're actually, operating off of preconceptions, and you're operating off of behaviors that were genetically, gifted to you from your parents, and so on and so forth. Like everything from the start of the Big Bang all the way to now. Everything that happens, you think you have control. You might have control over what you call micro decisions. Do we want to take a left or a right here? What's faster? What do we want to try first? Pearls or swine? Pearls before swine. In this context. But some people will say ultimately you think you have control, but really it's like all hard coded what's going to happen. And I say I like to get away from that. I like to think people can change who they are. Not in a postmodern way. I support you to... Whatever you want to do, your body is your business. Okay? You can do whatever you want. That's none of my business. I'll do whatever I want. It's none of your business. But the determinism thing, it's a thing. It exists. It's real. But free will first. I like to think free will first. Nations before globes, very simple. Again, this is about individuals versus groups. Same thing. Nations before globes. So you should think of your country first. This is a very nationalistic perspective. I happen to be a nationalist. I believe that every country, every group of people should focus on them first before others. So that's that in a nutshell. I believe America first for Americans. I believe Canada first for Canadians. I believe China first for the Chinese. I think that's healthy, and I think that like we can all work together around the world, around the globe, for that. So that's that. I don't want to go too much further into that. It's the same idea as individuals over groups, that you want to focus on what individual nations need and are doing, and not focus on the big picture of all these people, but actually just stick down to make sure your nation's happy and then worry about the rest. And of course, there's a push and pull. I mean, you have to have some globalism to be part of the world economy. Nothing I say here, by the way, I'll say later, but nothing I say here should be viewed with binary thinking. Nothing I say should be looked at in absolutes, unless I indicate it should be. Definitely ask the question. But the truth lies between, you want to have some nationalism, some globalism, and that's the healthiest. There's a healthy mixed model there. Very healthy mixed model. Liberty before authority. We need both. We need authority. We need the police. We need... In my mind, it really helps for us to have a government now that we have the world the way it is. You know, the United States is great. We have 50 states. We have other territories. But you need to have authority figures. There's positive authority. But I say liberty first. I say that, you know, we're free. We should be free beings. Free, conscious, sentient beings on this earth. So I do believe in libertarianism over authoritarianism. I don't think people should be overly controlled, especially in their personal interactions at home and so forth, like that. You know, I don't think there should be people telling me what I can and can't say. They shouldn't be actually really telling me that I have to wear a mask because of COVID-19. They shouldn't do that because it's not constitutional. It's a guideline, folks. It's a guideline. I know we have Dick Jesus Christ Cheney. I got it. Everyone's telling you wear a mask. I've talked to some people in Massachusetts about this. I've seen some posts on Facebook. Let me paraphrase one of the posts I have about masks from my left-leaning friends in Massachusetts. Fuck you! Wear your fucking mask, you fucking fuck! What the fuck? You're so fucking stupid. What the fuck is wrong with you, you fucking idiot? Wear your fucking mask. It's not all about you. It's not all about you. Oh my fucking God, you're endangering grandma. You're endangering grandma. So, you know, authority is good. And, you know, obviously we want to have safety. We want to slow the spread. We're never going to stop it. We want to slow it. But you'll see that. This idea that everyone has to conform to certain things. It's a creeping authoritarianism. It's not like we don't have any right now. We have tons of it. But the more you add on and the more people just accept the control, I say no. Liberty first. Liberty before authority. Put it through that filter. Capitalism before socialism. Won't get long-winded on this. But I'll say that you need to have a strong capitalistic base to do those soft socialism things, like social programs and all this other stuff. And obviously socialism is a persuasion word. There's a lot going on with socialism, lobbying and all the way that, you know, commercial entities and corporations interact with the government, of course, involves a bit of socialism as well. But I say capitalism first because it's merit-based. It's not this big group thing again. You'll see a pattern here, not so many groups over individuals. Socialism is groups over individuals. You know, the greater good is to make sure that all of society is happy at the expense of the individual that loses their sovereignty as a commercial entity because they can't work the same way they did before in a fully socialist or communistic system. This next one is a little bit more interesting. It's character before identity. So again, we should be judged by the content of our character, not our immutable characteristics, our identity. I should be judged for, what Jeff Tidwell does. I shouldn't be judged for what, agnostic white male that happens to like Radiohead does. You know what I mean? Straight white male. No, Jeff Tidwell. My name is Jeff Tidwell. Nice to meet you. That's the way I prefer. Character, if you do bad, you get a slap in the wrist. You do good, you get a thumbs up. Character. Not judged by your mutable or immutable characteristics. Well, mutable, there are certain things you could do. If you wear a fuck you hat, well, people might judge you. They might not like it. They might not like the aggression. Accolades before criticisms. I have a video. Accolades before criticisms. It's a thought experiment. Available on YouTube. And that basically says, give the good news first. Give the accolades first. And then give the nitpicks and the criticisms and the negatives later. Instead of going, oh, well, the first thing I want to say is that this sucked. This thing you're doing is suck. It is suck. And then kind of go, oh, there's a little bit of good. Start with the good, go to the negative later. I think that's, most people agree, most things in life are a mixed bag. Most things in life are a mixed bag. You want to give the accolade first. And then say, well, hold on. This, and this. Here's some constructive criticism. Here's some feedback. I think that would be better for society. Putting our pearls before swine. 4 more for you. So, openness before isolation. Again, isolation's great. Openness is great. I think we should strive to be more open. We should try to be more accepting. We should try to be more positive. Not exclusive, but inclusive. We should be allowing as much as we can within reason. This is very generally speaking. Openness to experience, for example. Jordan Peterson talks about openness to experience. Isolation's great for engineers, scientists, and people that are doing things in a very intricate way, and they need to be able to isolate and analyze things, take them apart into their component features one at a time. But being isolated in this context here versus openness and isolation, is that frankly, when you close off, when you look inward only as a human being, if we look only inward, eventually we just wither up. We're not open. We're not accepting new information. We're just going off of isolation. It works for some. Hermits love it. Hermits love isolation. I don't judge hermits. I don't judge often at all. But openness, I think, is better. Not being echo chambered, for example. I say an echo chamber is great as a vacation home, but you wouldn't want to live there. It's very comfortable to live in a vacation home, but you wouldn't want to live there. So I try to not isolate myself. Sometimes it's easier not to see conflicting opinions that you've already heard 500 million times. So you might isolate then, but initially, at first, at least, and if not continuously forever, you do want to remain open to new perspectives and intellectual and non-intellectual dialogue alike. Possibility before beliefs. So, again, it goes along with openness. Believing in possibility. Things are possible. Things that you didn't believe were possible before are possible. Some of them. Not all. Again, don't view this in absolutes. But You want to have the openness to experience that things are possible, not just your beliefs. And my belief is all that matters. God said it. If it's not in the Bible, I don't believe it. If it's not in the Bible, I don't believe it. We don't want that. There are some places in which I believe that an orthodoxy like that can be helpful. Not harmful, but helpful. Moral, even. But I like to, for my purposes, expand the possibilities, expand what's possible, and not just go with our beliefs about what can be, but actually expand. Don't isolate, but expand into this larger universe where anything's possible. Now, that can, of course, I'm a postmodern thinker. I do critique postmodernism sometimes, but I am a postmodern thinker. I believe President Trump is the postmodern president. So it's a matter of balance. Beginnings before endgame. So again, possibility. Not just closing off and saying we live in a deterministic world. It's all going downhill. The only thing that's inevitable is death. I mean, a lot of these things may be true. But I like to make sure that, we're thinking about new beginnings versus just the end all the time. It's like positive. Think positive. Think of birth. Don't think, life is a cycle of life and death. It's not very eloquent. But our reality, it's like everything that's living dies. And then fertilizes something to be born again. Beginnings, beginnings, beginnings. Endgame, of course, is kind of a reference to, you could snap your fingers and half the universe disappears. You want to have the openness of a beginning and not the isolation, the closing, the finality of an endgame. So it's not that you want one or the other, but you want to put beginnings first. Beginnings before endgame. And finally, contrast before relief. And that's the last line of the tweet, and it says, contrast before relief. And it was spelled differently, so there's a contrast there. Get it? And I think we need contrast in our lives for them to be interesting. If all the patterns are the same all the time, we don't have anything that pops out at us anymore, there's no contrast. It's all boring. It's like there's almost no reason to go on. If you're just, seeing the same thing every day, contrast before relief. If you get some contrast, it comes right before your relief. You're like, life is interesting again. Life is beautiful. So